Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Well, tonight, the attention is on peace building for national development and integration. This is against the increasing spate of hate speeches, unguarded agitations, militancy and insurgency that are undermining the nation's stability and giving rise to mutual suspicion and mistrust. Many argue that these are occasioned by factors like poor governance, poverty, social injustice, ethnicity, and religious bias, which continuously threaten national unity and security and in turn retard sustainable development. There are also arguments that Nigeria's crises and conflicts are as a result of contagious effects from the international environment. Now, how true is this? What has happened to the culture of peace that was once the pride and strength of the nation? And what's responsible for the rising cases of hate speeches and mistrust? What's the way out of the indigent settler syndrome? These are some of the questions we'll be raising tonight on NTA Tuesday Live. We have a panel of discussants. But first, let's get to see this report by Timothy Yusuf.
Who says that peace is not something that we wish for? Peace is something that we must make. Peace is something that we must do. Peace is something that we gradually become. Indeed, peace is something that we give away.
It is no longer news that Nigerians are fast becoming ethnically and religiously insensitive to hate speeches which seem to be on the increase. Dangerous or hate speech is defined as a speech act that denigrates people on the basis of their membership to a group such as an ethnic or religious group that has a reasonable chance of catalyzing or amplifying violence by one group against another, given the circumstances in which it is made or disseminated. Within the Nigerian context, we regard as dangerous any speech act that is aimed at inciting the audience to denigrate against people on the basis of ethnicity, religion, gender, geography, and any other socially conceived parameter with the purpose of marginalizing them or placing them at some disadvantage that is contrary to the provisions of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights as well as the International Covenants on Rights of the People. Those who know explained that hate speech is a major driver of violent conflicts as experienced in several countries.
If God dominates the life of a man, he will not speak against his fellow man.
From the speeches people make, you get to know that we still have a lot to do to cement what we call unity.
We condemn hate speeches in all ramifications because it's not good for national development.
Peace-building efforts, therefore, have always been advocated as the way out. Nigeria is not immune to hate speech. In fact, it is on record that after the peace accord was signed between the presidential candidates in the 2015 general elections, there was reduction in hate speeches within the period of the 2015 general election. However, over the last few months, there has been a rise in hate and dangerous speeches in the country. The most asked questions are why and what should be done to get the country out of the woods.
If you love your neighbor as yourself, every problem in this world is solved.
We should unite together as one people to fight against these common enemies, not by taking guns, not by taking machetes.
Statistics according to research shows that between May and June of last year, 393 hate speech items were documented, and the situation so far this year does not seem to be any better. These items are categorized into access to resource control, Biafran agitation, terror recruitment, election-related matters, religious and ethnicity. Analysts say the two major sources of hate speech in the recent period are religion and ethnicity. In fact, the two contribute about 94% of all hate speeches. This means that Nigerians are becoming ethnically and religiously insensitive or even intolerant. People are particularly horrified by some of the messages that people peddle, clearly calling for the killing of others, dehumanizing and demonizing others to create the condition for people to act, the call to action. The dynamics of hate speech is that others get provoked and retaliate in same manner, and before you know it, some people take the action to implement the specified call to action contained in the hate messages.
Nigerian comes first, and we are in Nigerian. Then once that is preached to every citizen of Nigeria, you see a better Nigeria.
Bishop Sunday Onoha is one out of many who experienced the harrowing civil war as a child and prays that such experience never reoccur in Nigeria.
Those who are drumming the drum of war, drum of crisis, those who are not guiding their tongues should come to some of us for us to tell them what we went through between 1967 and 1970 in this country.
I believe at this point we need to go back to the drawing board. Luckily, today is Valentine, the 14th of February. It's more of love. There's nothing love cannot do.
While experts believe that many of the hate speeches rise from the perceptions associated with the action or inaction of government, stakeholders are enjoined to step up efforts to promote inclusive dialogue with a view to arriving at a consensus on national issues. Religious and traditional leaders, they say, should refrain from using inciting language and caution their followers from using hate speeches to voice their grievances, in addition to promoting dialogue and peaceful resolution of conflicts and support the promotion of inclusivity in all governance programs and activities at all levels. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guest to you. I'd like to welcome to this program Representative Mohammed Sani Zoro. He's chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on IDPs, Refugees, and the federal government initiative on Northeast. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
We're joined by one of our regulars on this program, Dr. Padin Joku, National Dean, National Association of Peace Ambassadors, and also Director General of the International Institute of Leadership and Governance. Dr. Padin Joku.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Good evening, Nigerians. Good evening, viewers.
Let me also welcome to this program Hajia Ramatu Delhatu Musa, MFR, a past president of the National Council of Women's Societies, and she's an activist. Thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening, viewers.
Okay, also here tonight, Tim Adepoju. He's a peace advocate and peace ambassador. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
And joining us tonight, Ustaz Abubakar Siddiq, Islamic scholar and columnist with the leadership newspapers. Thanks for being here, Ustaz.
Peace be unto you, Cyril.
Right, as is usual, we acquaint you with the procedure of this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of them. For those who will be calling in, we say this every Tuesday. Once your call gets through, do us a favor. Turn down the volume of your TV. Just reduce the volume. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through, your name will appear on screen. Once that happens, you see your name on screen, it means your call has been passed through. We encourage you to go straight to the point, ask your question or make a comment. Please do not bother too much about the greetings. We all know that the lines can sometimes be erratic, so it would be to your advantage to just go straight to the point. And we also encourage you to keep it short so that more people can get on the platform and also chip in their bit. Once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight, it's something we've always been talking about, and we brought it back again. That's talking about peace, national development. But let's begin with the chairman of the House Committee on IDPs, Refugees, and the federal government initiative on the Northeast. It's a question people ask all the time. What's happened to Nigeria's culture of being at peace, and should the nation's diversity be the cause of disharmony and crisis?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that I have always had an idea of what peace is all about. But with the assignment of being the chairman of the House Committee on Internally Displaced Persons, Refugees, and federal government initiatives on the Northeast, I have come to reflect on actually the deeper meaning of peace and the absence of peace in a given society. Now, if you go to the northeastern part of Nigeria, or you go to the northwestern belt of Nigeria, where killings, destructions of property and lives and property are ongoing, or you go to some parts of North Central and you witness or you visualize the destruction that had been brought to bear as a result of communal crisis either between thieves and Jukus or at Agatu. Or you go to some parts of south and southeastern Nigeria where communal clashes had also reigned some destruction. You will now begin to appreciate that probably there is nothing more precious like peace. That is just one. Secondly, to attempt to answer your question, yes, diversity management is what Nigeria has succeeded in achieving over this period of its evolution since independence. But with that, so many challenges have also been brought to the fore. How do you manage and weld together the elite that come from about 360 different multicultural groups, and then the dynamism in the polity where centrifugal and centripetal forces are always at play? What about mechanisms of achieving democracy such as politics, which brings about bitterness, violence, interhuman violence, generalized violence, and the other sources of conflicts? Now, I want to say that, in my own opinion, this is not a peculiar problem with Nigeria. It is a global problem that is instigated or triggered by so many factors that we won't have time here really to talk about. But my own belief is that policies, be they national or those that will flow from the international relations system, and local efforts through peace movements, national peace movements, are capable of mitigating all these sources of conflicts, wars, and threats to peace in Nigeria. I'm happy, for instance, that the new UN Secretary General, Mr. Guterres, has come back with a peace agenda for the world, just like his one-time predecessor, the late Boutros Ghali. He came up with a peace agenda because he has recognized that it is the absence of peace, it is conflicts and wars all over the world that lead to internal displacements, that lead to the absence of peace everywhere. So what we need to do in Nigeria, to my mind, is also to make more efforts, especially within the civil society structure, by coming up and fostering peace movements, because the non-governmental organizations within civil society are rooted in communities, and they are the best actually to champion the cause of peace, because they are the victims. Largely, it is the communities that are victims of the absence of peace. So I believe we can complement governmental efforts and all other efforts of different institutions and groups if we will give more attention to peace activism, so that we can wage peace to counter those who are waging hatred, who are waging violence and visiting general violence on our psyche.
All right, and seated right next to you is a peace ambassador and the dean of the Association of Peace Ambassadors. So, what is responsible for this seeming, disquiet in the land and almost total absence of peace?
Thank you very much, Cyril. Thank you, NTA, for choosing today when most parts of the world are celebrating love. on this Valentine Day to bring up the issue of peace deficit in the Nigerian polity. You can't celebrate love when there's no peace. And of course, you can't have peace when there's no justice. We started as a nation with 3 regions. And these were 3 productive regions. Somewhere along the line, things went awry. And we ended up with 12 states. And unfortunately, these 12 states stopped being productive and became consumption centers. And from 12, we went to 19, from 19 to 21, from 21 to 36, and counting. Okay. So what happened was each of these units that got its quota, its feeding bottle from the center, started discriminating against non-indigens from its surroundings and said, look, go back to your place and look for what you can eat. Because we had stopped producing. When you are producing, if you have a factory, if you have a farm, you look for the best hands that can help you produce, no matter where they come from. You prefer them to your own brothers of the same mother, same father, provided they helped you produce. But the moment we ceased producing and we were depending on what we can, the share we can get from oil, discrimination setting, acrimony setting, pushing people out setting. Unfortunately, most unfortunately, up to today, we have not recovered from it. And this is why I've been telling people that what we now call recession could be a challenge, but it could be an opportunity to get back to production, to get back to loving that person who can help you produce, instead of loving your brother who can help you consume. So, acrimony setting, we've not been able to handle it. Honorable Zoro mentioned something, management of differences. Our problem is not so much as diversity as it is in the management capacity deficit to manage this diversity, especially in the face of dwindling resources. Once those resources are no longer able to go around, I start asking for where Cyril Stober came from, where Honorable Zoro came from, where Ajia came from. Could they go back to their places? Let me see whether the little feeding bottle I'm getting from the center can suffice for me and my children. But if we got back to our senses and say, look, God created us and gave us resources, human resources in this country, resources of productivity, of resilience, of creativity. What can you do with it? That is when we can start appreciating the 170, 180 million people that God has given us in this place. That's when we can start appreciating other resources, like the land He has given us. But as long as we have left these things and we're all concentrating on what comes in from petrol, how do we share it? Who is the chief distributor? Who is the chief, when we were in secondary school, we used to call them table head. The man who will say you get this full plate of rice and beans, the other man you get half. That is what is causing conflict. And we must now recoil and get back into ourselves and say, we are human beings. We're not just animals meant to consume and to fight and to kill and to maim. So I'm happy that you people brought up this issue, more so at a time when resources are dwindling, But resources are dwindling in terms of petrodollars. Natural, mental resources are not dwindling. Nigerians are increasing in number. God is giving us more brains. Mind you, there are 1 or 2 people you can mention in the world today, and they have more resources, mental resources, than so many countries put together. I don't want to mention them.
All right.
And I think we should be going in that direction now.
Okay, so there's the question of resources. But, Ajay Ahmed, just resources? Or somewhere along the line, resources also mixed with the ethnic question?
Thank you very much, Cyril. I believe in the fact that peace is not a word. It is a behavior. I'm a teacher by profession. We believe in the saying that learning does not take place unless there is permanent change in behavior. Now the issues, when we talk of resources, we have diversified resources, human, material, name them. The fact that we are not able to address the primary issues affecting us as a nation, development cannot take place, because this piece is like an egg. If not well handled, it can be disastrous. That we are in a situation today, in this situation today, is not the fault of Mr. President. This is an inherited, these are inherited issues. When we were running the regional government in this country, we started developing. But when the federal system was brought in place for unity and stability, but it overstayed. And the overstaying of the federal system is what has brought us to this situation we are today. Where are the granite pyramids of Kano, the cotton, the cocoa from the west, palm oil from the south? Name them, call. We have virtually left the crux of the matter that can bring us to a success story and have become consumers. We are no longer producers, we are consumers. So the system for now is sick, but it's never too late. This is our country. There's nowhere we can go to claim we belong to. And so it's a collective responsibility of all and sundry for us to put our heads together to know the way forward.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not one segment of society alone that has the work to do. Tim Adepoju,
yes.
What's wrong with us?
Thank you, Cyril. A lot is wrong with our system. A lot is wrong with our leadership style and how we carry out our daily activities as humans in Nigeria. Our leaders borrowed leadership system from America system, and they borrowed from the Western system, that's the European system. Merge them together as one. We practice both European system type of governorship and the American styles. How possible do you think that will work for us in Nigeria? It's somehow ambiguous for us because, yes, because looking at the way the Western world operates is different from our way of activities in Nigeria or in Africa. Our culture, background, cultural background, disposition to religion is different from the way they view it in the Western world. So I think our leaders in this country need to redirect their focus on leadership styles so that they can carry along the citizen, be mindful of our culture and religion orientation. Because moving forward, We have a lot of crises that happened in the past in this country. But when you hear, maybe in the social media on air, you hear that it's religious crisis, or communal clashes. But by the time you go and look at the reports of most of these religious crises, so-called religious crises, you discover that the government and the people of the nations have created a lot of gap in between there. So the gap in between the leaders and the citizens of the country is so wide that there's a disconnect. There's no information for people to know how to carry out activities. So by and large, we see a lot of breakdown of laws and activities in the country.
Okay. So we've introduced the dimension of leadership now, and culture, traditions, religion, but we had these all along. And so if we were strong in those, why is it that a sudden romance with the West would easily knock off our values?
I don't think so, Cyril. Honorable Zorro mentioned his experience and what awakened in him the value of peace in the IDP camps that he oversees and visits, and the devastation brought in the places that we have seen as scenes of violence. The issue of IDP in this country, it's new. In the past, we used to discuss IDPs, internally displaced people elsewhere. Now we are seeing it in our very site and in the communities that we live. They are everywhere. Now, the reason is lack of peace, which I have mentioned. Ambassador Paddy and Hajia have alluded to the fact, even my brother here, and the question that you have asked about the embrace of the Western, either form of government or culture or whatever. I may be asking a question here. Am I to assume that we had more peace, Ambassador, during that era of production? Now we have more activity, but the production is not there. From what you and Nigeria have said, if the American system has overstayed its welcome, are we suggesting that there was more peace in the country when we had the British system of government and what you now described as the regions? That's what he said, and that's what you said about what we're able to produce. Where was the disconnect that the brother was mentioning about? Where now people see other regions or parts of the country as liabilities and consumers only. So if all, as you said, Ambassador, if all was producing, every region was producing, every region was contributing something to the table.
Exactly.
What happened that everything disappeared? What happened that we are now relying on only one resource? And why is that resource making us forget that before it, there were other resources from all as contribution to the table? Is that not part of what we are speaking about? Is that not part of the crisis? And maybe back to his last point. If the crises are said to be religious, Honorable Zoro mentioned examples of Tibbs and Jukung. And maybe I can add Modakeke and the other Ife. Why are they described as such? Why are problems that are identical to what obtains elsewhere are now different in maybe the northern part of the country? Why will there be a crisis between Fulani and maybe another ethnic group, and then before you know it, it is Muslim Christian? What is wrong? I'm here to answer questions, but I think I need to ask questions to understand. We are still learning.
So that's a question. So why would people who would spend generations practicing their faith and living together, why would they suddenly wake up one morning and have a disagreement and find no other escape route than in religion? Right. Why would that happen?
I think there are quite a number of reasons. First of all, I tend to say the culprit is in the weakness of our state institutions to be able to patrol the different segments of society. And beyond that, I also do not hesitate to associate the corrupt nature of our society as part of the problem. Now, in the olden days, when you talk about 1960s to 1970s, the demographics are totally different from what obtains now. We had lesser people.
Okay.
Law enforcement was more efficient and effective. Everybody knew everybody in a village or a town. Traditional rulers at the village levels, at towns, emirs and chiefs, they were aware of what was happening in society. There was no drug addiction as we now are confronted with. There aren't the sort of social crimes that are being generated that have permeated through every society in Nigeria. Now, these triggers, they can be anywhere, but how do we respond to them? We respond to them, we respond also through an effective diversity management controls. I'm afraid the Nigerian society has been fragmented at all levels because state institutions are no longer effective. State institutions are abysmally weak, that they cannot patrol the Nigerian society. For instance, if you were to compare Nigeria with other countries that are more efficient, take Rwanda for instance. Rwanda had seen more violence probably at a particular time than Nigeria. During the ethnic crisis or genocide in Rwanda, 800,000 people were killed. But today, Rwanda has bounced back because it has a leadership that has focus. And it has been able to put that in the past. Today, it is one country that everybody wants to go to. They have wired the country as far as information communication technology is concerned. Most bus stations, as soon as you go there, you are online. The peace that has, in fact, it's an outbreak of peace that they have witnessed. Production has risen, GDP has grown, and everybody wants to go to Rwanda. Another country that I think is also a showcase of multicultural governance, a big success story, is Cuba. Cuba, if you look at its history, it has slaves, it has white people, Europeans, it has Latinos, it has mestizos and all sort of people. But we have never heard of any clashes based on ethnic primordialities in Cuba. Look at former Yugoslavia. Before it erupted, so many people didn't know that there were Muslims around Montenegro. They didn't know that there were also other ethnic groups in Yugoslavia until when it exploded. Why? Because the diversity management system and capacities of those states, were very, very efficient. So in Nigeria, I think, let's look at the issue of corruption. corruption has permeated politics in the sense that electoral politics is highly commercialized, and that one brings desperation and violence. Corruption has brought a lot of division in society to the extent that everyone is just propelled by this desire to accumulate wealth, and to accumulate wealth, you know, in a very sickening manner. That brings about violence, because in Nigeria today, kidnapping, armed robbery, and other forms of crimes are taken for granted. They go unpunished. And these are all problems that effective management, effective regulation of society through enforcement, through legislations, and through policy can help to mitigate a lot. So I'm of the opinion that Nigerian leadership can actually rise up to the challenge. We can definitely address these problems drastically with a view to reducing them, and at the end of it all, with a view to substantially overcoming them and redirecting our energies towards greater productivity, like he has said, where people will be occupied, where people will have no justification to resort to unnecessary violence on the basis of either ethnicity or other forms of societal divide.
All right. Sometimes I ask this question in two legs. Is this the price of development? You talked about corruption, you talked about crime,
yes.
And then you talked about population. When you had a smaller population, it was easier to manage. But what happened to the morals of the people? You would attest to the fact that there was a time, yes, you had a smaller population, but if you went along the highway or you drove along the highway, you would find people display their wares, and they wouldn't be there, and you would take and drop whatever it was that was commensurate to the goods. Now, how does population take away that?
Yeah, you are right. There are some communities that still practice such absolutely safe havens, absolutely trustworthy society. But before I forget, Cyril, this media in which you are all embedded in is also a culprit. Because the media has been a vehicle of transmitting crimes, of acculturation. The media is a platform that is used, you know, by all sorts of deviants to teach crime.
Okay.
Yes. You see, even if you don't want to commit crime, you can access sites. You do not even have to make an effort to access sites that teach crime, but they follow you.
Okay,
so probably there is a need to look at that dimension.
All right, so that also can be classified as the price of development.
Exactly.
Okay, but we have the very first caller on the line on this program, calling in from Adama, Kingsley. Hello, Kingsley.
Okay, but we have the
No, Kingsley. We said this at the start of this program. Turn down the volume of your TV set. Is Kingsley still there?
I think Kingsley has taken
right. Okay. Dr. Paddy Joku. The price of development.
Yeah,
as society gets more sophisticated, certain values are eroded.
Exactly.
Yes. Ustaz has posed certain fundamental questions. My brother, the fellow peace ambassador, has also posed certain questions. Ajia also harped on issues I raised, and Representative Sani Zoro.
Oh, thank you very much.
Has he doesn't like to be addressed as honorable because there are many. He says there are dishonorable honorables, so he likes to be addressed as a representative. So
I don't know about that, but I prefer that representative.
Very good. Yes. So he has touched on fundamental things. I wish we had more time actually to discuss this issue. Truly, we have what we call values deficit that has led to peace deficit. And you ask me, how come? Some people have raised the question, is it the type of parliamentary system we're practicing? Is it what we borrow from the Americans and this and that and that? But the issue is this. We will agree. And you touched on something very important now. In my village, when I was growing up, a woman will go to the farm and display her banana on the road, and the price is known. Somebody will stop there, drop the money, and take the part and move on.
Godly behavior.
Very godly behavior, without stealing one part. But she went to the farm. She was busy. Today, so many people are idle because when crude oil came and we saw money pouring into Nigeria, money we didn't participate in producing in any way, and we saw our own brothers indulging in conspicuous, abusive consumption of luxury, we then dropped our own productive behavior and wanted to imitate them. He gave rise to 419. He gave rise to obtaining by tricks. It gave rise to so many other things, and that's giving rise today to kidnapping. When somebody would see somebody on the road, take him and say, unless you give me 100 million, I won't release him. So we are suffering from a progressive, corrosive values deficit as a nation. Then, at the political level, because we are there to share, there is so much shove and push. If Star says, I am the one to be there, Padin Joku says, no, it's not you, it's me. Elijah Zoro says, no, it's not me, it's you. And the society is confused. The poor constituents are no longer in a position to recline and say, this is the man of values that we know who can represent us. Is the man who brings us more money.
That is recognized.
Instant reward.
Okay. We'll ask you to pause a while there. Let's get back to the phones and see if this can go through. From Anambra, Celestine from Anambra.
You can talk better of what you are talking about.
Hello, Celestine.
Yeah. Our people talk about Hello, are you getting me?
Yes, go ahead.
Are you getting me, please?
Yes, we are. Go on.
I said that our people talk about things that if we are giving you. Yes. We are not yet ready to pay the price of peace. The price of peace entails good value system. Good value. Our leaders are more confused than the subject because they do not show that exemplar price. We value more wealth.
It's a success story. Okay? People, the population, we have such a great gift in this country. 170 million, 180 million people who are not being involved in productive enterprise on a daily basis. So what happens is that the man who gets to go and who goes to get my share of the national cake, if he's not able to account for it, he tells me to go and attack Representative Zoro because he's of a different religion or a different ethnic group or a different class. And by so doing, they continue deceiving the populace. Nigerians have always had, since we became Nigeria in 1914, we've always had Muslims, we've always had Christians, we've always had Yorubas, Fulanis, Igbos, Hausas, they've been there. So how come that at a certain time religion becomes the issue? How come that at a certain time corruption becomes the issue? Nzongo did a coup in 1966 and said the prime motivator for his coup was corruption. Mind you, corruption had been there. I'm not justifying corruption. No. I'm not saying it is good, but I'm saying that.
That one. I have some of my friends that will share a lot of things. They are egos. I'm from Maiduguri. But you know, the problem right now, let me say this thing, and I think we'll take note of it. Serious, I'm staying in Malabar. Please, when people are coming back from work, just come to Abuja Barrack, stand on that bridge up, and look at the population that they are coming back from work. Then, from that Nyanya to Masaka, how many general hospitals do we have? How many public schools do we have? But anytime we come on, Christian, Muslim, this and that, and look at our community. We cannot even help ourselves. We are waiting for the government to come and assist us. Whereby it is too late. Then my advice goes to the rich men. The rich men, with your 300 million, you can go to China and import something that you can help the government by creating jobs to the youth. So I wish my country very well, and I wish Mr. President will return back home peacefully in a good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suleiman. Yes, Hadia.
Thank you very much.
It's even gone into the educational institutions, right?
Yes. And, in fact, he has touched one of the points I wanted to raise. I want to say that, are we proud of ourselves as individuals? Are we patriotic citizens of the country? This is a country that is rich, very, very rich in both human and material resources. Yet, we go abroad for treatment. Nobody patronizes our universities. Rather, we are sending our children abroad to schools, and we're happy. We feel the system is working. It's not yet working. Now, our rep, Zuru, mentioned the population which has been discussed. The population was less, yes, but our leaders were not corrupt. They were doing the right thing because everybody was a watchdog. You can imagine today that a woman will come out proudly to say that she's a single mother. Does it mean the child came from heaven? Before, if a girl became pregnant, the mother was so ashamed that she could not even attend community functions out of shame. So, and a rich person will be at home and call road safety VIO to bring driver's license for his children at home without them going for tests. Before, only primary 7, the least qualification could drive. Because you had to read the documents from the VIO's office for 6 months, you go for written exam, then you go for the practical exam. I did that for 1 year before I got my learner's permit. And I drove for another 1 year without accident before I went for proper driving tests. The system is sick. Road safety cannot be having workshops in the hall to avoid accidents. The drivers are not able to know the road signs. Our children did not go through the due process to get their license. Now, religious leaders are no longer respected because it's only politicians that are respected because they have money. If we make politics less lucrative, we will become productive. When you see somebody become stinky rich and you go and start doing rankadede to the person, what do you expect now? If we can reach a situation where we call back the elected for lack of performance, things will change.
All right.
Reps have mentioned also that Rwanda succeeded in becoming productive. Yes, because they linked and they're still linking their peace building with national development. For instance, the situation we have in the northeast zone of this country. We thank the UN, the EU, and the World Bank for coming to our aid. We did not have the data for them to start helping us. Now they have gotten that report, and it is going to, the total money expected to carry out that reconstruction, rehabilitation, whatever, is 9 billion, right? So the governors now have to put their heads together to come up with a strategic plan on how they will develop their zone. And other states that are affected by crisis too. And let me put it there. The assistance is meant for the less privileged. There are rich people that have been affected totally, and they have gone down from rich position to zero position. They have to consider them too. Now, the traditional rulers had the state data of all visitors. Now, what is happening?
Okay, let's go back to the phones. We have Ibrahim calling in from Maiduguri. Is Ibrahim still on the line? Hello.
Hello, how are you? Are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good. While I accept some of the submissions by some of the discussants, there is one reason that I totally disagree with it, and that is the overstay of federal system which was mentioned. The issue is behavioral, based on illiteracy and ignorance.
Yes.
Though we are reasonably educated in Nigeria, we fail to observe and use the three attributes of knowledge, which says look for knowledge, understand its value, and then utilize it positively. We became lazy after independence. We make unjust judgments on issues. We improperly display our ignorance and pride. We improperly use improper words against our fellow citizens. This all results into man's misuse of his two important assets, reason and conscience. Community leaders, political leaders should be honest to themselves and their members to respect the Nigerian factor of unity in diversity. This is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim.
Okay. So I have one other issue. Anytime we hear the word corruption, we just think of the economic corruption. There are different kinds of corruption. You have moral corruption, where we have this domestic violence against women, and also rape cases. The society is things have gone haywire. Now, another form of corruption is social corruption, inability to communicate in convincing manners. That is what we are referring to today as the hate speeches and what have you. Then we have intellectual corruption, or education, name it, where people claim certificates that they don't own until they are disgraced in courts of law. And then the political corruption, stealing of mandates. If we have to address these issues, the corruption fight today of our present president is very good. It's very good. But what will happen maybe after his tenure? The person taking over, will he continue with this fight, or will go back to square one? That is the question we need to ask ourselves.
All right, and we'll attempt to proffer answers to that. The panelists are here, and hopefully calls will get through. When we return after this short break, stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Peace building for national development. And we're looking at different aspects of it. We had a caller who said, well, value systems are eroded. Of course, we've also had the bit about how religion is the victim. I think there was religion is the victim.
We victimize religion.
And we have asked the question on so many occasions, especially on this program, how come we have a religious people, yet some say not very godly people? There's a difference here, isn't there?
Sure. Yes, of course. Thank you. Let me quickly go back to topic of discussion, national development. What is national development? This simply refers to as economic, social, and political process by which the government tends to improve on the quality of life of humans. In essence, provision of basic amenities, infrastructures. We're talking about healthcare facilities, quality healthcare facilities, accessible and quality education, potable water, and what have you. But are all these infrastructures and basic amenities there today? Are they working? Are they serving the populace? A lot of people have seen that these are not working. So they've resorted to a lot of means by themselves to help themselves. So there's a breakdown of the system from the citizens themselves. Going back to religion, most of the religious leaders have failed them too. The government have failed them by not providing amenities or infrastructures. Going back to religious leaders, they failed. Community leaders and our traditional leaders have failed them. So what do we have? Breakdown, total breakdown. So the citizen have no option but to choose the best or the easiest way, which is corruption. Then we talk of politics. We see our politicians out there today, and you just can barely talk of maybe someone that, sorry, Honorable, I'm not referring to most of our...
Well,
but
certainly you can.
Yes, you see a politician, maybe someone that just finished his maybe primary or secondary education, without any experience or any background of what he has worked for, where he has worked before to earn living. Just into office, within 1 year, 2 years, he's a millionaire. People now see him as, hey, Rankadede. So people have been, a lot of citizens are just looking up to these politicians as the alternative to benefit themselves and to help themselves.
What of activists? Activism has become an industry too.
So every aspect of it, so that's part of the corruption.
Yes.
But let's try to get this call from Kanu. Khadija calling in from Kanu. Hello. Yes, Khadija, are you still there?
Let's go. She'll recall.
Oh well. Hello, Khadija. Well, we can't wait all night. Well, yes. So politics, all kinds of things, activism, like Representative Sarizuru said.
No, sir. But I like what Hajia has said.
Right.
About the many facets of corruption. And I really want to say this. I agree with what she has said because she has not confined corruption to somebody helping themselves in the office that they occupy. It covers other areas. In the place of worship, for example, there is corruption. Because where somebody's spirituality has been turned into an avenue of self-enrichment, and that people are not encouraged to exert their utmost in production, in getting their means of livelihood. It's only that I pray for you and you are rich tomorrow. And no religion teaches that. No religion teaches that. You have to work to be able to earn. And where a clergy would tell his flock to go out and kill the other, I do not see any difference between that and what Sheikah, for example, will do. Because Sheikah is a madman who does not respect any religion, who kills Muslims and Christians and all places of worship, who professes and claims to be a Muslim. So we are to encourage people to live and not to corrupt them by urging them to do what is wrong, especially the greatest of the sin, to kill another. Corruption is in the ruled or the led. Where an ex-convict is having triumphant entry and celebrated and received as if he was a saint, it's really shameful that the common man, the psyche that Rep Zoro has mentioned, that we need to work on our psyche, is really disheartening to see, as if you are still in a dream, as if it's not happened in your lifetime. It's really unfortunate.
Right. Let's go to Ibadan now. We have Bello calling in from Ibadan. Hello. Well, we're losing that out. So, with us looking at the problem from so many angles, what is the way out?
Very good.
How are we going to work the system in such a way that I wouldn't have to wonder if I would have to do Representative Sarizoro some harm in order to aggregate the resources, which you said dwindling to myself, and he wouldn't have to do the same to Dr. Padi Njoku, and down the line.
Well, by the way, before this program started, I and my very good friend, Dr. Njoku, we have agreed to explore the latest industry of whistle blowing, because this is where you can get some millions of dollars.
That might well pose its own challenges as well.
No, it's coming. It's still coming.
If you are into retirement, if you want to join us, probably we can sit around. The only thing the Sheikh will be able to tell us whether it is halal or haram.
Exactly.
Honestly, on a serious note, I think we should be tired of lamentations in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Yes. What is the solution?
Yeah.
We have diagnosed all these problems forever. We have always not been guilty of not being of not diagnosing the problems properly, but prescribing what to do. And I think the options can be narrowed to either reforming the Nigerian system or bringing about a revolution. Personally, I will choose revolution. Because yes, reform has failed us. We have not been able to reform ourselves, talk less of reforming society.
Right.
We do not have the political will to reform. In fact, we use reform as a means of deepening corruption, deepening the social crisis. And I think it is high time we engage and we start advocating for revolution. Now, when you say revolution, some people will probably talk about bloody revolution. No, it doesn't have to. It can be velvet revolution. Velvet revolution.
We had
an
ethical revolution at one time.
For instance.
But it didn't take us far, did it?
Yeah. But the revolution that was largely expected out of the Buhari administration, if it had been really concentrated, if it had been deepened, by now I can tell you that a large part of Nigerian society would have been brought to shape. However, the chance is not lost. We can still deepen that revolution by making sure that we reconstruct state institutions to champion the cause of change. And this change must be profound. We must involve all active sectors of society to take part in the revolution. We must crack down harshly on corruption, because corruption actually escalates division between classes. It leads to the societal fragmentation. Our society is largely dysfunctional because of corruption. So if we are able to spearhead and deepen the anti-corruption war, that one will substantially reduce the extent to which we resort to violence and evil doing.
Okay. Let's try this call from Kanu. This is another Kingsley, this time from Kanu. Hello. Oh dear. Hello, Kingsley.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm calling from Kanu. So, my own contribution is we are talking about this religious. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, I'm talking of this religious crisis. So, around 2011, many people were killed on their way because of this fuel subsidy or something like that. People that doesn't know anything about government, people know anything about increasing of fuel subsidy or something like that, they were just massacred on their way. Look at what happened in Kano last time. This Mrs. Bridget, who are just slaughtered. A woman of 70 years who have been living in Kano for long with his family. The woman was just massacred. What was the judgment? That's why if we are talking about this religious something, let us be sincere to ourselves. Because you can't kill somebody anyhow and tell the people, and when the woman have children and grandchildren, once they grow up, they will not ask what killed our mother. They will tell the small pikin that your mother or your grandmother was killed by these religious people. What did she do? They say, you can't give correct answer. That person will not look the opposition or the Muslim as the friend or anything. What was Nigeria? All Nigeria was looking about that case. What happened about that case? That case was just like that, which many people will not be. Many people is angry about that case. So if we are talking about religious, let us stop. If we do something wrong, try to tell people and try to make everybody that if you do something like this, this will be your punishment, and show it to the whole world so that everybody will be afraid to take another person's life, just like that. You can't just take life because you have one chief justice, or maybe your brother is in, they will make the person will just go free, just like that. I will not be, I know that I can't do nothing, but I will not be happy. You can't tell me to show love, just like that. That's the problem we're having in this country. Thank you.
All right. So that's the other dimension. Injustice, which we referred to, social injustice. And Dr. Padin Joku, we also mentioned that. He said there can't be peace without justice.
It's not possible. And Rep. Zoro mentioned the issue of revolution.
I'm happy you are.
And a number of people are always on edge. Yes, mentioned the word revolution.
Revolution. And it rang a bell. He also mentioned the issue of whistleblowers and corruption. Let me start with corruption. Ajia talked about corruption and said corruption is not just going to steal money. There is positional corruption and institutional corruption. I once talked to a very highly placed person in this country who kept us waiting for 3 hours. 3 hours on a Monday morning before coming to attend and open a ceremony. I told him, sir, with due humility and respect, you are practicing corruption. You are using your position to deprive us of our own productivity for 3 hours this morning because you are going to be paid for coming late. We that pay ourselves will be losing income for waiting for you. That is metaphorical. That a lot of people think that because they're up there, the rest of the people have to kneel to be able to survive. That is corruption. Corruption is not only when it takes our taxpayers' money. And so, even in the fight against corruption, we should get down to the level. Incidentally, I am also the chairman of the ethics and values, fellowship. Yes, in the country. We've struggled and struggled and struggled. The problem is up there, you meet a stumbling block. We should start teaching our children. Ajia, the teacher. Start teaching everybody that corruption is not only when you get into a situation where you have a budget and you pocket it and go and hide it somewhere. Corruption is the way you relate with me and you look down on me and you devalue me simply because you are up there. Corruption is making something lose value. And our leaders have made us progressively lose value. That we must address. However, the issue about revolution is desirable, but we must be cautious because every revolution devours its own children.
Yes.
When revolutions start, there are some people who are behind, who are very happy that something has started. After some time, they say, no, Ustaz is too slow about this, and let's get rid of him and push it at a higher speed.
Yes, but even now it happens.
Everywhere in the
That's
world
what
is like that.
yes.
I'm a good student of the French Revolution. It started in 1789. It could not end for decades.
The noblesse oblige.
Noblesse oblige. And people were killed and died. And in a country like ours, where you have too many idle people, you can easily have many recruits for a revolution who don't even know where they are going.
Yes.
Let's try and get this call in from Saidu, who is calling from Abuja. Hello,
If you
Saidu.
discounted percentage of the population, you waste it, no problem.
Oh my God.
Saidu from Abuja, hello. Hello, Saidu from Abuja, hello.
Hello?
Yes.
People who have overchopped, just sort them out.
All right. I think we'd better move on since Saidu is not speaking up. Well, yes, the issue of justice.
Revolution.
Yes.
Okay.
You will take that. Or if you want to.
She believes
Where,
in revolution
you know,
too.
part of the problem, some people have identified and said, look, unless we restructure, like he said, now if you're restructuring, it follows that you restructure virtually every facet
For
of national
sure.
life.
You reconstruct. Revolution, that's it.
Well, as a mother, I don't just take words like that. I have to sieve. And use the usables and then throw away the... Now, women or mothers have a lot of role to play here.
That's true.
I agree with what reps have said. And the red chief...
Mind you are challenging my red cap, your cap is also red.
A caller said...
Besides, that's part of it too, because there are quite a number of people who would want to be red cap chiefs.
Or red cap revolutionaries.
You know, they would have questionable values, but they have a lot of money and they'll get the titles.
You're right.
Well, because now royalties are for sale, not like before.
All right.
That was blood stream something. Now, mothers for real have a lot of role to play. If we are not careful with the situation as it is today, our children will eventually become the slaves to the children of the house. We have the haves and the have-nots. Some call it the rich and the poor. I believe there is no poor man on earth. A poor man is a person that is dead, has no...
Where?
Yeah, in WhatsApp, they posted it.
Mini revolution.
So, that is instant revolution, which is very effective.
Interesting. But that may also lead to violence.
No, he was able to escape.
Yeah, it's possible.
But
he
it
might
will
have the
teach...
supporters who would fight back.
No,
how about using established procedures? Like recall, you talked about.
Recalling back
instead of
for
resorting to
not
violence,
performing.
because that also is violence.
Okay. But, you know, if the youth can just be patient enough to, you know, face the realities of life as it may be, things will work out well. Because they have a good population, just as we mothers have. Let me tell you, the time for women to be relegated to the background has passed. We are not rubbing shoulders with it. It has passed.
Now,
we are in a computer system. I mean, since we are copying, we travel out and come back. We don't come back with good initiatives. So that means we travel for our extra costs. So people should stop traveling if they are not bringing something good home. We can't be borrowing ideas that cannot, you know, conform with our own system here. Am I, you know, peace building is a set of activities that are meant to, you know,
drive,
to improve. I mean, to which word am I supposed to use? Is supposed to, the activities are supposed to bring back the system to a better position than it were. Now, in the Northeast, for instance, if this UN, EU, and the World Bank are helping us, are we going to still build those 6 classroom blocks that was there the same? No. We should build a very big school that it can accommodate children or students for the next 20 years. The population, as he mentioned. So, and you see the other countries like Mali, Ukraine, succeeded Japan in 1945, you remember. After
of all what we have talked about here, so that you break the chain. How do you begin to stop people from what we now know as reprisals when it comes to violence?
Yeah, thank you very much. Is there a gap between peace and the populace of this country? Yes, there is a huge gap. Can we bridge the gap? Yes, it is possible. How do you go about it? Peace building. How do you go about peace building? It is time to engage the youth of this country in policy and decision making, to reflect and affect most of the policies the government are rolling out each day. Talking about reprisals and revenge attacks. Quickly, let me tell you a bit of my experience. I was born in Bauchi State. I grew up in Bauchi State, school in Bauchi State. But there was a crisis that happened during this Prophet Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad cartoon saga, the Denmark, that was 2006, February 20th to be precise. I was involved in the crisis. My mother, my elder brother, and my kid sister were killed right in my front, and the entire house was burnt down. I was left in nothing. I was turned to an entirely displaced person.
Yeah, it's very pathetic. Sorry about this.
As a solution, Cyril, whenever, at the trail of this type of incidents, the government will set up a committee to look into the immediate and remote causes of the problem and submit recommendations. They will do that, and the government will heap it on similar reports and recommendations of past committees.
The white papers.
And white papers would never count, because the white paper would give direction on what to be done according to what has been, whatever information was obtained from the report. There was no white paper. So it continues. So until the perpetrators of such heinous crimes are brought to justice and the law is allowed to take its course, and you make example of such deviants and miscreants and scoundrels, so that when next somebody wants to plan the killing of others, they will think twice. The government should also look at this issue of hate speech. Whoever is inciting people to kill others, they should include him as part of the criminal. Because if you incite another person to do evil, you are part of...
And all kinds of things. The social media has become a quick vehicle for spreading of hate messages.
Yes.
Yes. Certainly the last part of the 20th century as well as the 21st century is actually the epoch of the information and technology revolution that has been driving society, that dictates what you eat, what you wear, and what you say. And this is facilitated by the media as a vehicle. Now, the social media is just a segment of the larger media platform that serves as a conveyor belt for good, for all the positives, the negatives, and the very bad, or what people will prefer as evil. Now, the social media in all countries, in all societies, have brought probably the most controversy. In Nigeria, it is unfortunate that we are shedding crocodile tears. We keep complaining because we have not been able to come to terms with the reality and the necessity to regulate the social media. I have no regrets whatsoever to advocate that not only the social media, the entire media industry must be patrolled, and it can actually be regulated. There are countries in so many parts of the world, including Africa, where the social media is regulated, where the mainstream media is corruption crusade in the country. Those that are into promoting democracy, those that are promoting and facilitating the understanding of a better society, all these are positives. But those that are used as conveyor belts of spreading falsehood, where people will sit down and invent lies, and they use their blogs and other devices to spread rumors, incite public to disaffection, cause societal disharmony, and so on, that one should be rejected. And I think I made the point the last time I was here that probably we have reached an emergency level in this country that we need actually to have a special dialogue that will include the actors in the social media, journalists from the mainstream media, because unfortunately it is their own profession that is being dragged to this serious disrepute. And they better realize this, because journalism is a profession. Simply because people have access to media by means of technology, anybody can just use it and put out something that will deceive millions of people. That does not mean we should surrender to them, no. Now, it's not only for the authorities, it's for the good of society to clean up this place. And I think the earlier we do this, the better. We have to generate a lot of interest in people to realize that these people are inflicting harm. And we should not be afraid of them. We can come through legislation, we can come through technology, a proper profession.
Right.
That's my own position.
Okay, Dr. Njoku, yes, technology can be a double-edged sword. You can use it to propagate ideals, you can use it to destroy the fabric of society. So peace building now, with what we are seeing, with all the advances in technology.
It is unfortunate that what we would have used to build peace, which is technology, is now being used to destroy peace. If you switch on your phone any morning and get onto WhatsApp, like they put me on about 32 platforms, and my system is full all the time. If you switch on, this one is warning you not to eat fruit from this place. That it's coming here, it's been poisoned with this. The other one is saying that you should watch out when you go to pray because this group is coming to bomb you and so on. So to guard your sanity most of the time, you even have to stop reading and blank off. We've gotten to that level. Whereas we've been talking of mass education, propagation of positive values, peace building. We should have used this new medium to do all that. Unfortunately, the medium we would have used is now working against us. Marjorie Momolan, the British politician, said, you don't switch peace on like a light bulb. You don't come in and switch on and then you see peace. You build it gradually. And we have raised a mass of young people who are idle, who are frustrated, who are ready for adventure. And the older generation is acting as if they were insensitive of the needs of these people. Look at this young man, the story he was telling. Suppose he wasn't guided by the right spirit. He'll be busy today making arms personal lives, in their national lives. And so we must caution our own children on the use of this. Every medicine must have a dose. Otherwise, you commit suicide. We must caution our up-and-coming people by saying, look, if we want to build peace in this society, please consume information technology, but these areas and these areas and these areas are no-go areas. In a fragmented society such as ours, I tell you, I've been in this country for a couple of decades. It has never been so fragmented as it is now. The use of these media to be propagating hate speech is very, very dangerous and can drive the nail on the coffin of this country if we don't take time. Secondly, we are talking of hate speech. We're not even talking of the people who are perpetrating the real evil themselves, whom we don't see being prosecuted.
The sponsors.
The sponsors,
evil.
The sponsors, the perpetrators themselves have never, for so many years, you know, I've never watched the trial of 10, 20, 30 people in this country to say they killed this person. We're even busy here talking of the people who are using hate speech, but we're not talking of the people who are using the weapons themselves. So in peace building, we must apply justice. Otherwise, the people you want to drag into peace building will not believe you. We must apply social values that are positive, that you can tell your child, please, don't engage in this thing because this is the result. Do you see this person you are looking on television? He is like that because he engaged in something like this. So, the nation needs people like this and more people coming together to say, no, we do not agree that we should all go and do collective perishing simply because something has come from the Western world that we think makes life easy. We must take it in measured doses.
And Hajia,
Thank you very much. For me, I don't believe in this social. I'm not on Facebook. Even the WhatsApp is
I've been looking for your face.
But you know that the freedom of speech in this our nation is just too much. It's just too much.
Yeah.
If you visit other African countries, you will see that our own is like we have gone. It's like we have become witches and wizards.
Hajia, there is a past president of the NUJC.
It doesn't matter.
He knows.
That is me, Ramatu for him.
He knows.
She is a digital. She has gone digital.
He's a comrade. I'm a comrade too. So we tell ourselves.
Okay, so for security agencies, on a final note, we just got about 2 minutes now. 2 minutes.
All right, on a final note, talking about media and information. This is the right time to go to the grassroots to disseminate proper and usable information. Because where there's no information, there won't be communication. And where there's no communication, there won't be understanding. And where there's no understanding, there will be violence. So,
when she mentioned rapportage, I thought she would go the way of the media generally. Not only, but generally, the media.
Yes.
You know, from the way they report some events, I think the phraseology should be in a way that people will not be guided into something. I mean, report it as it is. Don't give it coloration. Don't report the same event, sad event elsewhere, with an ethnic coloration, and you report the same evil elsewhere with religious undertone. I think you are doing disservice to this country.
Double standards.
Double standard of the media. Secondly,
that's corruption.
Corruption, yes. Yes.
Media corruption.
Hajia has mentioned about school, and I think one of the speakers who called alluded to the fact that we should use education. I went to a Christian school. And that is why my children are in a school whereby they will be able to see Muslim and Christians.
Bakr Siddiq, it's always a pleasure, as usual, to have you on this forum.
Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you. And also, thank you to you as well for being part of this program. Next week, we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.